Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dawn of the Nerds. I'm your host Charlie, and you guys are watching the Punisher guide for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. So this is basically eliminating 10 psychopaths throughout the course of the game. The first one that you guys are going to have to come across is Kent, who's in Paradise Plaza. The call time's around about 12 PM onwards on day 1, September 19th. It's cut from the same cloth, and obviously you need to do this to be able to continue kind of Kent's mission line leading into his inevitable psychopath turn. So obviously be aware that this is something that you definitely need to do to be able to progress and obviously unlock him as a psychopath. You have this little cutscene with him and Frank, and he's like, right, you need to get me an outtake photo. An outtake photo is easy to get. You can go down to the kids store, grab a load of like the Servbot helmets, put them on zombies, take the picture. Okay, pretty simple. The next one that you're going to get after that is Cletus, who's in the hunting shack. He's in North Plaza. It's from about 8 PM onwards, day 1, September 19th. You will not, however, get a call for this mission. So be really careful, obviously, that you don't leave it too long and kind of end up in a position where you're like, damn it, I missed him. I should have got him and gone a bit earlier, etc., etc. So the footage you guys are seeing are basically of my very first playthrough of the game. Obviously, I had all the footage saved over from doing the Saint run, so this was actually during the Saint run that you see all of these. The really good strategy for Cletus is to obviously stand behind the doors if you can, take pot shots at him. You might get lucky and be able to jump behind the counter and grab a shotgun or something along those lines. It doesn't necessarily always work, so I've always found taking pot shots from outside is usually the best way, especially if you were playing the original 2006 version or any of the other remastered ones that came out after that. Standing behind this door is ideal. In this one though, however, you can actually take advantage of the durability that the items have, because they actually block Cletus's shots now. In the original, you couldn't actually kind of stand behind them. Cletus would just knock them out of your hands and you'd end up completely screwed over. But if you grab the signs that are scattered around, the little like postcard signs, and they've got ammo and stuff on them, you can grab those and obviously swing away at him. There's also another sign on the floor just in front of the counter. You'll notice here, you'll see I try to jump over. He doesn't necessarily stun lock you in this because obviously the roll is more beneficial, but you will notice obviously this is what happens if he does grab you. He'll throw you over. So something to be aware of. Anything with durability you can use as a weapon. Just be aware that you might end up with a cabbage bouncing off your head like I did. And then once you've obviously took him out, you can then move on. The next psychopath that we have is Adam, who's in Wonderland Plaza, and that is 9 PM, day 1, September 19th, and that is the out of control scoop that you'll get. And it's the one where I wouldn't suggest having any survivors with you, but as this was my Saint run, I was attempting to get you and Shinji at the same time. Adam will throw knives at you. He will also jump around a lot. He doesn't have like an insta-kill move like he did in the original, so luckily you don't have to worry about that. You can see the throwing knives in action there. You will have to watch out for when he starts doing like the spinning attack. If you see his arms come back, best thing to do is roll. If you can get behind him, brilliant. He does this spinning attack now, as mentioned, and then obviously as you're shooting him, he will block. He blocks the majority of damage. And he's probably one of the only psychopaths that actually does do that. Not many of them actually do. The main way to take him out is target him after he's finished his spinning attack. He'll do a full-on spinning attack. You can target him if you've got a rifle. If you've killed Cletus and you're heading here, grab one of the sniper rifles. They're quite handy to take out Adam from the range. They do an okay amount of damage. They're not great, but they will work. Obviously, this is going off the basis that you haven't already unlocked the laser sword, the Mega Buster. Anything along those lines that isn't effectively game-breaking. The next thing you're obviously going to keep an eye out is for when Adam uses the fire. As you guys can see there, something you need to be aware of, that he will do like an area of attack, like area of effect attack that kind of fills up the area a little bit, so don't stand too close. Main target is when he's blowing up the balloons. Balloons do an insane amount of damage to him, and luckily it's something that he does usually when you're at a bit of a distance from him. If you can get to a decent distance, it's usually the best time to do it. And other than that, there's no real strategy for Adam. Obviously, you can see here now, he's blowing up the balloons. If you shoot the balloons, his health just depletes rapidly. You can then obviously take a few more pot shots at him afterwards. Just be aware that obviously use the weapons that you have available around you at the time. If you've just come from Cletus, like I said, take some shotguns, take some pistols, take whatever you can from them if you're moving into this area. And obviously once you've finished off Adam, you got the last couple of shots off on him, and that'll be it for him. The next one that we have is Stephen, who is the Sean's food and grocery store owner, and he is during case 2-3 medicine run about 6 a.m. day 2, September 20th. He is literally part of a main case line. Very, very hard to miss if you haven't already. He's also probably one of the easiest ones because he's programmed very similar to how he was in the original. He works very much in straight lines. So you can see here, he will literally just keep on running. If you've just come from Adam the Clown, which you probably would have, you might have been able to grab the mini chainsaws, which obviously do a lot of damage. We won't use these for the rest of the game because they're nowhere near as good as they used to be. But what you need to do is effectively lead Stephen down like these little aisles down the supermarket. He'll pretty much just run down the aisle, kind of get to the end. If you do jump on top of any of the actual shelves themselves, he usually pulls out a shotgun, at which point it gives you a chance to get behind him. If you can get behind him, you can take a few shots off at him, or if you've got the mini chainsaws, you can use the mini chainsaws. He does that charge attack every now and again where you can get the PP bonus for taking the photograph. There's loads of wine, there's loads of food. You should not have an issue with health during this entire battle. You are in a grocery store. There is enough food here. There is no way that he would stun lock you. He's not the type of character. He takes a lot of damage from the mini chainsaw. Most of the bosses in the game do. It's just it's not very useful in terms of the zombies. So in actual fact, that and the free books, the inventory space it takes up just doesn't seem worth it. Stephen will often try to kind of give himself space, and you will need to watch out for when he spins the shopping cart, because as he spins the shopping cart, it can do a lot of damage to Frank. As you can see there, the back kick is another thing you need to watch out for. He usually only does that when you get the little PP sticker that comes up. Again, you see here, obviously, he just drives over you. It's not such a big deal. Once he takes enough damage, he'll be finished. The easiest probably boss in the entire game, Cliff, drops rapidly thanks to the lawnmower that's in the area. If you use the lawnmower that's literally just by where you spawn in, all you have to do is hold down the trigger and drive it towards him. It's probably one of the simplest boss fights I've ever experienced. Other than that, the main thing that you're going to get out of this is the fact that you get Cliff's machete, which is hands down the best weapon I've used in the game outside of the laser sword. So once he's done, make sure you do pick up that. The next one you're going to have is Kent, who's in Paradise Plaza. This is the photo challenge. It's 12 p.m. onwards, day 2, September 20th. And you do need this, which is where you give Kent the outtake photo. Okay, once you give Kent the outtake photo, that then triggers the final mission, which leads into him becoming a psychopath. So make sure you obviously do that one. The next one that we have here is the Hall family. These are the free snipers that can be found in Entrance Plaza from 4 p.m. on day 2, September 20th. And it's the Mark of the Sniper scoop. Usually comes up, you get Mark of the Sniper, the woman who didn't make it, and Antique Lover. They're usually in conjunction with one another. They're all in the same place. Sometimes you might not get the woman who didn't make it, depending on how many other scoops and cases you've got going on at the same time. I would always recommend with this, taking on Thomas and Roger first. The reason being is that they're incredibly slow. Once they take damage, you can easily chase them down. The hardest one probably to get out of them is Jack. You can see there Roger is insanely slow. Thomas falls on his ass all the time, so just kind of leave him to it. He's probably one of the easiest ones to actually deal with. Okay, you don't necessarily need to worry about him. Okay, and you can see there, obviously, Jack's in the background just trying to take pot shots. Once you get rid of him, you don't have to kill Thomas. You can just kill Roger and Jack. But I would just recommend just getting them all out of the way, especially if you're doing anything in particular, like a Saint run or trying to escort survivors. They do, luckily, drop some snipers that you can actually use to take them out, because for some strange reason, Jack either runs away like an absolute madman, or he never comes close to you. He will always stay at a distance, which means that the only way to really get to him is to either cut him off by chasing after him and getting in front of him, or using the sniper rifle that's in the area. Okay, again, this is providing you haven't got the Mega Buster, the laser sword. It's almost like a fresh run. You're starting from scratch and you're good to go. Again, just take pot shots at him. Headshots obviously do a lot more damage. Okay, so you can literally hide in one of the stores, peek out thanks to the fact that we can actually move now whilst aiming, and just finish him off. It shouldn't be too difficult. Probably one of the easier psychopaths like that you'll actually come across throughout this whole playthrough, really, if you're going for the Punisher trophy or achievement. After this, you guys are going to head over to Jo, who is in Wonderland Plaza. Depending on what time you get to her, she may have a few more survivors with her. And this is on 1 PM day 2, September 20th. It's the above the law scoop that you get. Jo's stupidly easy. You've got Cliff's machete. Again, you can see she just drops. It's one of the quickest fights you're going to have outside of actually Cliff. Moving on from that, we have Colby's Movie Land, which is a strange group scoop that you get about 12 PM on day 3, September 21st. And this is Sean, the cult leader. He has a few attacks that are a bit tricky. He can end up knocking you into the air and not stun locking you as such, but kind of getting you to a position where you can end up taking quite a lot of damage. He does, however, after certain times, once you've hit him enough, he will kind of drop down to his knees, which allows you to get in a few hits. What I would recommend as well is, as you're going through this, obviously take photos of the psychopaths as well. Didn't say it at the start, but obviously just remembered having taken a photo of Jack and now Sean. Make sure you take a photo of the survivors as well, if you can. It just helps. Technically a psychopath, but also not a psychopath, Paul, is the long-haired punk that appears at 6 AM day 3, September 21st. It's the scoop you get from deal with Paul. Obviously, you don't necessarily deal with Paul. He ends up, if you rescue him with the fire extinguisher, he ends up being one of the psychopaths turned survivor that you can actually take back to the safe house with you. Again, Cliff's machete, very, very easy to deal with him. Hardest part about it is the fact that he runs off constantly. It's really irritating. But other than that, he's a pretty easy one. He's not overly tricky. The Molotovs that he drops are easy to avoid. They don't really do anything. He's just similar to Jack in the sense of that he'll run off. Now at this point, I'd unlocked Punisher, because you've got the 3 Hall family members. That's how it works. If you don't and you've missed one, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But it is completely possible to have unlocked the Punisher trophy at this point in the game if you've managed to get all the psychopaths up to now. The next one that we actually have is Cliff. Now, if you've done all of Cliff's little side missions up until now, this will be the Photographer's Pride one at 12 PM on day 3, September 21st. And you have to be there bang on time if you want to actually rescue Tad. So if you're going for a Saint run, this is something that you might have already experienced. You have to fight Kent as a psychopath. He turns, he flips, he's lost his mind. And at this point, you then have to take him out. Again, if you've got Cliff's machete, I stand by this as being a stupidly overpowered weapon, especially if you don't have the laser sword or Mega Buster, as I've mentioned a couple of times in a few of the other psychopaths that we've come across. There's loads of places you can grab a food, there's loads of places you can rest and kind of gather yourself whilst you're dealing with Kent. He does have this really pain in the backside kick move that he does that pushes you quite far away, but it also charges you just like that, usually knocking you over. But again, he drops pretty easily. The last one that we have is Larry, who is in the meat processing factory. This is day 3, September 21st, during case 8 for the butcher. Larry has taken Carlito and hostage, effectively chained him up, and he does the same to me here. In actual fact, you can use this to your advantage, because when Larry hangs you up, you have a few chances to have what they say invincibility frames. You can see when he puts me on there, he sharpens his blade. In the time that he sharpens his blade, you can actually jump down, which makes you invincible for a brief moment. Okay, so you can see when he actually puts me on the hook, it's not doing any damage to me. He sharpens his blade. Okay, I can jump down, swing a couple of times. Larry sometimes will do a charge attack, as you just saw him knock me for 6. That's something you have to be careful of. Make sure you've got food with you. If you can get the photo of him, grab the photo of him. There is milk and stuff scattered in here. You can see all my inventory with the amount of queens. I was prepping for overtime mode. I always prep my overtime mode before I actually get to it. And once you finish Larry, that will be all of the psychopaths in the game. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.